He's full of brilliant ideas, grand visions. He speaks with fire in his voice and emptiness in his calendar. He talks about the future as if it owes him something, but he never really arrives. He's always preparing, always waiting, always in between. You've probably met him. Maybe he's your brother, maybe a close friend, a past partner, maybe even your father. The man with a spark, but no follow-through. The man whose life is made of almosts. He begins like a storm and ends in silence. You admire his charm. You excuse his chaos. You explain away his vanishing acts. He says he's just not made for routine, that he's not like others, that he's still figuring things out. And maybe part of you believe that. Maybe part of you still does. But something deeper knows. This isn't about freedom. This isn't about creativity. This is about avoidance. Jung had a name for it. Puer Aeternus, the eternal boy, a man who refuses to cross the bridge into adulthood, not because he can't, but because growing up means letting go of the myth that life can stay safe, soft, open-ended, forever. You see him spinning, circling, never landing, and for a while, you thought it was just his story, until something in you started to ache, not for him, but because you recognize the feeling, the delay, the drift, the quiet terror of choosing something real. And now you're wondering, what if this isn't just about him? You think it's just fear of failure, fear of responsibility, fear of being pinned down. But it's deeper than that. It's structural, it's internal, it's archetypal. Jung didn't describe the Puer Aeternus as simply immature. He saw it as a pattern embedded in the psyche, a spiritual posture where the soul clings to the light of potential and rejects the weight of becoming. You see in his eyes when he talks about someday, in the way he glows when the beginning feels infinite and dims the moment reality enters the room. He's allergic to commitment, not because he doesn't care, but because something in him believes that choosing means dying. Choosing one thing feels like killing all the others. So he stays in the in-between, where nothing is certain and nothing is sacrificed. He wants the clarity of purpose, without the risk of failure, the intimacy of love, without the exposure of staying, the beauty of creation, without the repetition of the work. And maybe quietly, you've envied that, his fluidity, his spontaneity, his refusal to bow to clocks, calendars, expectations. But that envy has started to curdle, because behind the freedom is chaos. Behind the magic is mess. Behind the story is a silence you can't ignore anymore. What you once admired now exhausts you. You kept thinking he just needed time, that one day he'd mature, that the right person, the right job, the right pressure would finally bring him to the ground. But nothing sticks, because sticking means stopping, and stopping means feeling, and feeling means facing everything he's been running from. You wonder how someone can be so full of life and so deeply absent at the same time, until you remember you've done it too. Maybe you weren't as dramatic. Maybe you didn't quit jobs, ghost people, abandon cities. But inside, you know what it feels like to wait, to plan more than you act, to rehearse life without stepping on stage. You know the seduction of potential, the safety of delay, the way a blank page feels more powerful than a written one. You've told yourself, I just need more time. I'll begin when I'm truly ready. I'm still aligning, but readiness never arrives, and alignment becomes a hiding place. And slowly, invisibly, the years pass. You become masterful at almost. You almost moved, almost started, almost let someone love you all the way. You read about shadow work. You journal. You consume wisdom. But when it's time to leap, you loop, because action means exposure, and exposure means imperfection. And the eternal boy inside you, he still wants to be pure, untouched, chosen, not responsible, not embodied, not ordinary, According to Jung, the pure doesn't grow because he refuses to mourn, not just his childhood, but the fantasy of a life without gravity, a life where things fall into place, where greatness finds you, where love never asks for effort, where creation doesn't require structure. But that world doesn't exist. And deep down, you know it. There's grief in growing, but there's death in postponing. You keep one foot outside the door, in case this isn't the right path, in case something better comes, in case it all falls apart. But what if staying halfway in is what's making it fall apart? You thought non-commitment kept you free. But look closer. You've built a life with no doors, only windows. You can see possibility. You can smell meaning, but you never get to touch it. And the boy inside you, he's still waiting for the world to choose him, for the life to start without him having to start it. And maybe that's why you're tired, not from doing too much, but from carrying the life you never lived. You didn't choose this loop, not consciously. No one wakes up and says, I want to be a ghost of my own life. But somewhere along the way, you learn to stay hovering, to keep things open, to resist the weight of form, because form means limits, and limits mean grief. And the boy in you, he never learned how to mourn, only how to imagine. Jung understood this perfectly. He saw the Puer Aeternus as a psychic structure built to protect you from the sharp edge of time, from the moment when the doors close, the page turns, and the life you didn't choose is gone forever. He would rather drift through possibility than risk a single real step, because the moment you choose, you become accountable. You can no longer hide behind someday. You can no longer blame the timing. You become real, and real things can be broken. That's what the pure fears most. To be real, to be touched by time, to become part of the world, not just a spectator of it. So you create rhythms that feel like motion, but are really rehearsals. You start projects, but never anchor them. You love people, but never fully stay. You speak in grand metaphors, but avoid simple declarations. You stay poetic to avoid becoming practical, because practicality is scary. It's measurable. It's visible. It leaves traces. And when you leave traces, you can be judged. You can fail. You can be seen. And somewhere deep down, the boy inside you still believes. That being seen means being hurt. So you hide behind insight, behind analysis, behind beauty. You spiritualize your fear. You intellectualize your delay. You romanticize your avoidance. But the truth is simple. You haven't left the womb, not the literal one, the psychic one, the world of I'm not ready yet. And it's costing you everything you say you want. There's a reason you keep orbiting. A reason why, no matter how much you learn, no matter how many signs you see, you still hesitate at the threshold of action. It's not weakness. It's not stupidity. It's loyalty to the child inside who believed. That love must be earned through being special. That if you were just gifted enough, bright enough, unique enough, you'd be rescued from effort. That someone would come. Someone would see you. Someone would carry you into your destiny. You build a fantasy to protect a wound. Now the fantasy is the wound. You told yourself you were waiting for the right time, but time doesn't grant permission. It only asks questions. Are you ready to lose the story of what might have been so you can live what is? Are you willing to feel ordinary in order to become whole? Are you willing to close the infinite menu of options and eat the food that's on your plate? Because the pure doesn't say no. He says maybe. He says eventually. He says later. And later becomes a life. According to Jungian psychology, the boy refuses to die. And because of that, the man can't be born. So the adult remains frozen, energetic, perhaps, talented even, but directionless, unrooted, unclaimed. The eternal boy lives in the not yet, but you live in a body, in time, in reality, and your reality is crumbling under the weight of all the things you didn't finish, all the people you didn't stay for, all the talents you didn't develop, all the truths you never spoke out loud. It doesn't make you bad. It makes you human. But it also means this. If you don't take back authorship, the script will keep writing itself. And it only knows one plot line, the one where the boy stays dreaming, and the man never wakes up. So the question is no longer, what do you want? It's, what are you willing to die to? Because real life doesn't start when you feel inspired. It starts when you make a choice. That ends a loop. You thought you were guarding something sacred, that by holding back, you were listening to your intuition, that if you waited long enough, the perfect alignment would appear, and you'd know exactly what to do. But that moment never came. And if you're honest, you're no closer now than you were 5 years ago. In fact, you're more tired, more restless, more fragmented. The longer you wait, the heavier the dream becomes. What once felt like freedom now feels like hiding. What once felt like clarity now feels like hesitation. You've given beautiful names to your fear: discernment, patience, authenticity. But deep down, you know it's none of those things. It's avoidance. It's grief dressed as stillness. It's a life built on potential, because you're terrified to make it real. And here's the hardest part. You thought you were preserving your magic, that by not settling, you were keeping your light intact. But you weren't preserving it. You were withholding it from the world, from your work, from the people who needed you to arrive, not just exist. Your greatness isn't lost. It's just been trapped in indecision. Jung warned of this. He called it an over-identification with the pure, a refusal to descend, to root, to join the human experience. Because to descend means limits. And the boy in you still dreams of being untouched, of floating above failure, of being seen but not held, loved but never vulnerable, admired but never ordinary. But that version of you is fading, and you can feel it. The story that once protected you now suffocates you. The boy who wanted to fly is now afraid to land. You're not a coward. You're not broken. You just believed a beautiful lie, that staying open was safer than choosing, that being almost ready was better than being possibly wrong, that a version of you still untouched by failure was somehow more pure, more worthy, more divine. But divinity is not found in detachment. It's found in contact, in movement, in risk, in presence. And presence requires sacrifice of all the other lives you could have lived, of all the other versions of you that stayed dreaming. You told yourself that the delay had meaning, that it was part of your spiritual process, that all this waiting, circling, reflecting was depth. But now you're starting to feel it, the weight of it all, not as presence, but as pressure, not as trust, but as stagnation. There's a point where reflection becomes avoidance, where self-inquiry becomes self-cancellation, where not deciding becomes its own destructive choice. And you've reached it. You mean to disappear, but in trying to avoid pain, you vanish from your own life, and now the gap is wider, between who you are and who you thought you'd be by now, between the connections you wanted and the intimacy you actually allow, between the truth in your chest and the performance on your lips. It's not dramatic. It's quiet. It's subtle. It's spiritualized stagnation, and it's robbing you of joy, because you don't just want to feel alive. You want to be in your life, responsible for it, rooted in it, co-creating it, not just witnessing it from the edge. But that means saying goodbye to the boy, to the myth, to the illusion of being untouched. And here's the part no one tells you. There is grief in every real beginning, because every beginning is also an ending of the version of you who waited, who hoped someone else would choose for you, who fantasized that clarity would arrive on its own. That version needs to die, not violently, but consciously, ritually, with love and finality. This is what Jung called psychic death, the point where the ego must give up control, so that something more whole can be born, not better, not shinier, more whole. It's not the death of your light. It's the death of your illusion that you can shine without ever being burned. And you've been burned, just not by fire, by silence, by indecision, by the slow erosion of potential into regret. You thought you were preserving energy, but really, you've been leaking it. You thought you were protecting your future, but really, you've been postponing your power. You thought the world wasn't ready for you, but now you're wondering, what if you weren't ready for the world? What if all this time you've been waiting for permission to stop waiting? There is no perfect moment, only this one, only now, and now is messy. It's uncertain, it's flawed, it's real, but it's yours, and it's time. Something has shifted. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's real. You're no longer asking, why am I like this? Now you're asking, what can I do with what I see? This is where the real work begins, not in fixing the past, not in erasing the mistakes, but in becoming available to yourself now. You've spent years hoping to feel ready, but readiness was never the issue. It was permission. You were waiting for someone else to grant it, to confirm that you're enough, that it's safe to move, that what you bring is valid. But that person isn't coming, because they were never meant to. That's your role now. And it doesn't mean the fear will vanish. It means you stop asking fear for direction. You stop letting the child inside you hold the map of your adult life. He doesn't have the tools. He's tired. He wants to rest. He wants to stop protecting you from the future and start trusting you to build it. You are not him anymore. You carry him, but you no longer obey him. This is what Jung called individuation, the psychic process of becoming whole, not perfect, not pure, whole. It doesn't begin with ambition. It begins with honesty, radical, painful, liberating honesty. I haven't tried. I've avoided effort. I've confused perfection with worth. I've let the idea of freedom keep me from the experience of power. And still, I get to begin. Not because I've fixed everything, but because I'm done waiting to be someone else. The boy in you doesn't need to be killed. He needs to be held and placed where he belongs, not in the driver's seat, but in the story as a spark, the dreamer, the reminder of light. But now the adult takes the wheel, the one who feels afraid and acts anyway, the one who is seen and stays anyway, the one who loves not just in bursts, but in choices. The boy imagined, the man builds. This is where you reclaim authorship, not with grand declarations, but with quiet, inconvenient decisions. You start showing up even when you don't feel ready. You follow through even when no one's watching. You hold space even when it trembles. And in doing so, you begin to write a new pattern, one made not of sparks and collapses, but of structure and fire, burning in one direction. You realize discipline is not a prison. It's a promise you make to your own becoming. The same discipline that once felt suffocating now feels like care, like rooting into your body, like earning your place in your own life. You no longer chase inspiration. You create the conditions for it to find you. You no longer wait for love to prove you're worthy. You learn to love in a way that includes you. You no longer romanticize freedom as a life without limits, but recognize that the right limits are where freedom becomes embodied. You are not free when you avoid responsibility. You are free when you choose it. Consciously, you begin to separate movement from escape, motion from avoidance, lightness from disconnection. You let yourself land in your body, in your relationships, in your work. You stop pretending you don't care, and you start caring, fully, imperfectly, with both feet in, not because you're certain, but because you've chosen. You no longer fear being ordinary, because you've seen how extraordinary it is to show up for something real. This is the alchemy. When you stop needing to be special, you finally become powerful, because now your power isn't theoretical. It's in your word, your focus, your groundedness, and something inside you starts to relax, not because everything is figured out, but because the inner war is ending. You're no longer split, no longer dangling between boy and man, between potential and practice. You're whole, not finished, not flawless, but finally here. You're not late. You're right on time for your own life. There is no applause when you start, no celebration, no mystical clarity. There is silence, and then a breath, a step, a shift so subtle only your soul feels it. But something moves, not in the sky, not in the world, in you. This is what real beginnings feel like. Not lightning, but landing. You look around and see the same room, the same questions, the same open loops. But inside, there's a new voice. Not louder, just finally yours. And it says, we go, we begin, we hold steady. The boy no longer needs to dream alone. The man now walks beside him, carrying the dream forward. You're no longer haunted by what if. You're building with what is. The ache of postponement is fading, and in its place, structure, stability, self-respect. You're not chasing alignment anymore. You are alignment in motion. There will be days when it still hurts, days when you want to float again, when the fire of effort feels too hot. But now, you have something to return to, the choice you made when no one was watching. You will not abandon yourself again. You will not wait for clarity to bless your indecision. You will not mistake potential for purpose ever again. You're here now, in your life, with both hands on the steering wheel. It was never about perfection. It was always about presence. And presence is messy, unscripted, sacred. It's late nights with no certainty. It's honest yes and courageous no's. It's loving with both feet in, even when it terrifies you. This is where it begins, not with fireworks, but with the quiet click of alignment. The moment you stop resisting the path and begin walking it, step by trembling step, you are not waiting anymore. You are becoming, and becoming is enough. You don't need another sign. This was the moment. If you made it this far, it means something inside you is done waiting, not for more clarity, not for more pain, not for someone to save you. You've crossed a threshold, silently, powerfully, irrevocably, from performer to participant, from someday to now, from almost to already. This is not a return to who you were. It's a birth into who you've always been. And if you felt this truth, not just as words, but as recognition, let it anchor. Write in the comments, I begin. Say it to yourself. Say it on paper. Say it out loud when no one's around. Because sometimes writing it down is the first time you make it real. And if your soul needed this, don't let it vanish into the scroll. Save it. Return to it. Share it with someone who's still circling. Because this moment, this breath, might be the first step of the rest of their life. The boy dreamed. The man builds. Begin.